but it's about the incremental changes. But then ultimately, I mean, if you think about Leonardo, is that going to be the same quality in time as like MasterCard or Visa? Of course, it's not going to be.
Leonardo is a Italian defense company, and this also has a place in the portfolio. And I suppose traditionally, it's kind of seen as defensive, and it's got a lot of good markets, but it's perhaps not historically as growthy as a company would normally find in your fund. So can you tell us what's happened to make you interested?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we would probably categorize ourselves as a quality growth investor. But of course, when you speak to people back in, let's say, 2022, 2023, and then to assess whether Leonardo would be considered as a quality growth business, I think most people would disagree that it's not going to be. It's more likely to be a value company or quality value company. The reason being is because before 2022, which is what happened in Ukraine, the invasion, was that the top line growth for most European defense companies are only growing at mid-single digit. The reason it's growing at mid-single digit because European defense budget is always tied to the GDP, nominal GDP growth, right? So then you commit to it. And of course, we haven't seen a lot of growth in Europe in general. And most countries are trying to understand their commitments, which then Trump was very annoyed about. That's what he's trying to change over the last 2 years. But then when you look at what happened since Ukraine, but at the same time, especially after Trump was elected, then now when you look at the top line growth for the next 5 years, for let's say the likes of Leonardo, is going to grow, they're going to grow at low double digit. So now when you think about, okay, the barrier to entry is high. I mean, we talked about this before. You cannot just literally start up another European defense company, even though you think you're following the money. You cannot. I mean, you're not going to get approved by the governments. So then there's only a handful of players. And then you need to be a European defense company to benefit from the European defense budget, right?
Yes.
The European defense budget is not going to invest into American defense companies. That's exactly what we're trying to do to de-risk away from overly dependent on Americans' policy or maybe the next person who's going to run the country. So then hence there's a lot of barrier to entry. The balance sheet is going to improve dramatically. There's going to be pricing power. And then now you start to see visibility in terms of how long this order book would last, because it's not going to be a 1 to 2 years scenario.
Yeah.
And then the other question is, I would always ask this, is what do you think is going to happen when Trump steps down? And you might have Democrat coming in. I mean, would the European just say, oh, we've seen the worst now. We're very happy with Democrats. Why don't we stop investing in the European defense and let's go back to the status quo before? I mean, do you think that would ever happen again? I think that trust has been broken forever, at least for the next 10 years or so. And hence then when you look at European defense companies, they're actually in a very interesting journey that they're literally benefiting from all the chaotic policy coming out from the US.
I mean, also Leonardo has been through a kind of a bit of a transformation, hasn't it? It's kind of, I think it's called the one company transformation, and it kind of divesting from certain low growth areas and moving into more high growth digital and cyber areas. Has that influenced your view on its prospects?
Yes, it did. So basically, when we did the work on defense company back in 2023, so basically we started investing into the space back in 2023, was that we did the work across all the other companies within the European defense cohorts. And the conclusion was that we wanted to pick a company that could see a lot more potential, not just from benefiting from the European defense budget, but from the potential in terms of the restructuring within the company, the margin kind of improvement profile, or things that could be changing. And I think that's a bit of the idiosyncratic story. Of course, it takes a bit longer for that to play out. And I think the management team has done a good job so far. And so that is part of the idiosyncratic kind of play on top of what we just outlined about, okay, that's going to be very supportive because the money is just going to be coming. But I think as an investor, you probably want to pick a company that might be able to offer you more, while maybe the spending from European Union is going to take a bit longer. But then you still have something that could see the improvement in margin, etc.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, just in terms of being a European defence company and benefiting from that, there's also maybe a bit of a double-edged sword, because we've got the 30% stake from the Italian government, and some shareholder annoyance with the fact that the CEO's been changed and it's being seen as a maneuver to stop Leonardo getting out of certain areas and kind of making it more status quo-y. How do you view that risk?
Yeah, I think the recent change of the management team is, I would say, is not most welcome from our perspective. I mean, we would prefer that has not been the case, and then we have the same person who will be in the driving seat is going to continue the plan, because at the moment where we are now, there's a bit of question mark. I mean, is the plan still going to be the same? Is it going to be completely different? I think we have to reassess once he comes on board. But I think one of those things that we need to remember is, even though European defense company today, we would say that they're good companies, but they're not your highest quality company, right? There are things that you wouldn't like about. For example, like the government stake, like 30%. Okay, maybe Meloni has got some other plans, like, okay, we only keep all these jobs and start investing in the projects that's not going to be beneficial for shareholders. There's always part of that, right? So the way to do it from an investor perspective is, of course, that's all true. You can't ignore them. But then you have to then assess the valuation. What is the valuation of the company that has that been already discounting some of that? Is that trading at a multiple that's reasonably adjusting for some of these issues? I think in our view, that's true. So hence, we're not overly concerned. But it's about the incremental changes. But then ultimately, I mean, if you think about Leonardo, is that going to be the same quality in time as like MasterCard or Visa? Of course, it's not going to be. But the price that you're paying for this is a bit lower. So hence, ultimately, the question to ask is, can you still deliver outperformance from Leonardo? If you say yes, then it's a combination of the profit growth, the cash generation, the return to shareholders, at the same time the valuation. So I think when you put all this together, then yeah, it probably outweighs some of the issues that maybe it's not a perfect company.
Great. And also with deleveraging that's happened at Leonardo, because it's kind of the debt's just dropped massively. Have you got a view on what you'd like it to do with its balance sheet now?
I mean, I would hope that because of the new changes, so that we have to wait until the management team to come in to see what the new plan is. I mean, theoretically, we would want the cash to be returned to shareholders, right? So definitely not an acquisitions, hopefully not the case. Right. And if the cash could be returned to shareholders, I think that would be fantastic. Obviously, they can use some of the cash to build up more capacity, just because, I mean, that's where the European defense investment is going into anyway. So they could do that while you're waiting for the funding to come through. But ultimately, I think acquisition probably would not be the priority from our perspective, hopefully.
Thank you, Stephen. And thank you for tuning in. If you want to find out more about how Stephen manages the Blue Whale Growth Fund, and also more about how Citywire identifies the world's best managers, please check out the links below this video. And please look out for our other videos with Stephen when we talk about drug company Eli Lilly and also memory chip company SK Hynix. Thank you.